The Virellan Concordance had been dying for 312 standard years. Not collapsing in fire and ruin, but dying the slow, dignified death of a civilization that had forgotten how to lose. Their enemy, the Keth, had arrived without warning in the 87th cycle of the Concordance's golden age. One moment the outer colonies blinked on the stellar charts. The next, they were dark. No declarations, no ultimatums. Only silence and the creeping edge of a sphere of annihilation that expanded at 1 light-year every 11 days. The Keth did not invade. They enclosed. Their ships, black polyhedrons the size of moons, never fired a shot. They simply parked at the system's edge and unfolded a membrane of exotic matter that severed every quantum link, every wormhole throat, every onceable thread. Once a system was wrapped, nothing living escaped. Sensors recorded nothing but a perfect sphere of hard vacuum where suns and worlds had been. The Concordance called it the Veil. The Keth, if they had a name for it, never shared it. For 3 centuries the Concordance retreated inward, abandoning ring worlds, matryoshka shells, and entire galactic arms. They threw everything at the Veil. God-class antimatter lances, causality bombs, reality anchors, even attempts to negotiate with whatever minded the polyhedrons. Nothing slowed the advance. The Keth were patient the way geology is patient. They would wait. By the time the siege reached the core worlds, the Concordance had shrunk to 19 systems, linked by the last functioning hyperlane lattice. Their population, once measured in the trillions, now numbered fewer than 40 billion souls, most of them uploaded post-organic minds living in simulated afterlives because physical space had grown too precious to waste on bodies. The High Strategos, a tri-bodied gestalt named Lyra-Voricus, broadcast the final assessment from the Dyson lattice around the supermassive black hole at the galactic center. We have calculated the date of total enclosure to within plus or minus 14 hours. On the 113th day of the 312th year of the siege, the Veil will close around the core. After that, there will be no more Concordance. There will be no more anything. The transmission ended with the traditional Virellan farewell. Remember us as light. Across the 19 systems, the lights began to dim in preparation for a dignified, collective shutdown. That was the day humanity arrived. Not with fanfare. Not with a fleet blazing across the sky. Humanity came sideways, through a hole no one had noticed because no one had been looking for holes quite that shape. The first sign was a ripple in the gravity around the abandoned monitoring station of Kale 9, a moonlet orbiting a dead red dwarf on the siege's cold frontier. The station had been silent for 90 years. Then its ancient beacons flared to life and began screaming in a language no Virellan linguist had ever catalogued. A Concordance scout drone, running on fumes and nostalgia, limped over to investigate. It found a single ship, no larger than a frigate, parked inside the moon's hollowed-out core. The hull was matte black, scarred and ugly in the way only human engineering can be ugly, asymmetrical, over-armored, bristling with cooling vanes and point defense turrets that looked like they'd been welded on by drunkards. Across the bow, in stenciled white letters, was painted, UEV Sun Tzu, do not pursue Li Qingzhao into the deep waters. The airlock cycled. Out stepped 8 humans in mismatched pressure suits, carrying rifles that looked suspiciously like modified mining tools. Their leader, a woman with close-cropped silver hair and a prosthetic arm made of scrap titanium, looked at the drone's optic cluster and spoke in fluent High Virellan, though with an accent that belonged to no known dialect. Hi, CSS sorry relate, Captain Mara Okonkwo said. Traffic was murder. Within 6 hours, the Concordance High Command had convened an emergency session. Within 12, every surviving news lattice was showing the same grainy image, 8 pink-skinned primates standing in the hall of Accord on Viral Prime, surrounded by towering, luminous Virellan delegates who looked like living auroras wrapped around crystalline skeletons. Mara stood at the central podium, hands clasped behind her back like a schoolgirl caught smoking. Let me clarify, the Strategos' middle body said, voice like wind chimes in a hurricane. You claim your species has been observing our extinction event for 300 years and chose now to intervene. Observe is a strong word, Mara replied. We were nearby. And busy. You try building a multi-stellar civilization while your home star is trying to cook you alive. Then a rogue planet sideswipes your largest colony. Then there's the small matter of the machine cult uprising of 78. You are primates, another delegate interrupted, projecting outrage in 17 spectra. Carbon-based, short-lived, entropy inefficient. Your median technological index should not exceed 0.4 on the Kardashev ladder. Explain how you are here. Mara smiled the tired smile of someone who had answered this question far too many times. We cheated. She tapped her wrist pad. A hollow bloomed above the chamber. A perfect sphere of Keth Vale, 40,000 light-years across, rendered in cold indigo. Then a red line stabbed through it, not around, not over, but straight through the center, like a needle through silk. We call it the fold, Mara said. A topologically protected brain tunnel. Takes 11 minutes to traverse what you people needed 3 centuries to lose. We opened one end in your space 3 days ago. The other end comes out in Andromeda. We've been using similar tunnels to evacuate our own refugees for the last century. Figured you could use the spare exit. Silence. The kind that happens when gods realize they are speaking to other gods who simply never bothered to announce themselves. The Strategosa's left body flickered, an involuntary sign of grief. Why help us? You owe the Concordance nothing. Mara's smile faded. Because someone helped us once, she said quietly. A long time ago, when Earth was burning and we had nowhere to run, someone, opened a door for us. Left us a map and a warning. Pay it forward before the dark catches up. We've been running ever since. Figured it was time to stop running. The chamber erupted. Some delegates demanded proof. Others demanded worship. A few demanded the humans be dissected for study. Mara waited until the noise died down. Proof's outside, she said. 1 light-second spinward. We brought friends. Every screen in the Concordance lit up with the same image, a human fleet stepping out of nowhere. Not thousands of ships. Not hundreds of thousands. Millions. They arrived in perfect silence, emerging from folds that blossomed open like black orchids. Ships of every size and era, ancient generation arcs still glowing with fusion torches, sleek post-scarcity frigates grown rather than built, city-sized habitat rings carrying billions of sleeping refugees, and at the center a single vessel so large it had its own weather patterns, the UEV Nomad, a wandering O'Neill cylinder that had become a nation unto itself after old Earth finally died. And every ship flew the same flag, a pale blue, tipped on black. The siege had lasted 312 years. It ended in 94 minutes. The Keth polyhedrons never stood a chance. Humanity did not fight them with elegance. There were no reality anchors, no causality bombs. They fought like humans always fight when cornered, dirty, loud, and with overwhelming numbers. Sun Tzu and her sister ships rammed the nearest polyhedron at 0.3 C, converting their mass into a plasma lance that punched straight through the veil membrane. Behind them came the Nomads, mobile habitats converted into kinetic kill vehicles the size of continents. They didn't slow down. They simply fell through the holes the frigates had made and kept falling, accelerating all the way. Inside the veil, the Keth finally reacted. Their polyhedrons unfolded into higher dimensions, sprouting fractal weapons that rewrote local physics. Human ships died by the thousands. But for every ship lost, 10 more poured through new folds. The Keth had engineered their strategy around an enemy that surrendered space gracefully. They had never met an enemy that refused to surrender anything. On the bridge of Sun Tzu, Mara watched a moon-sized Keth construct bear down on the Nomad. She keyed the all-fleet channel. All ships, this is actual. Operation Pied Piper is green. I repeat, Pied Piper is green. Get the kids out. Across the battle space, human vessels stopped firing. Instead, they began broadcasting on every frequency, in every language, the same simple message. We're taking you home. And the folds opened, not the narrow brain tunnels used for warships, but vast, stable gates wide enough for entire star systems. The Concordance watched in stunned silence as their worlds, ring worlds, Dyson swarms, Matryoshka brains, lifted gently through the gates by tractor fields the size of nebulae. Not conquered, not destroyed, rescued. On Viral Prime, Lyra Voracus stood beside Mara on the observation deck of the High Citadel and watched the night sky fill with the light of human engines. "You could have conquered us," the Strategos said softly. "With this power, the galaxy would have been yours for the taking." Mara shrugged. "Conquering is easy. Building is hard. We're still working on the second part." Below them, the last civilian transport, a city-sized vessel carrying the final million Virellan children, rose through the atmosphere on pillars of clean blue fire. Its destination tag read, "New Earth, Andromeda Cluster." "Where will you go now?" Lyra asked.
"Home," Mara said.
"Eventually. Got a few billion more refugees to pick up first. Then maybe we'll take a vacation. I hear Triangulum is nice this time of cycle." The Strategos' bodies merged into one, a gesture of profound respect. "We owe you a debt that can never be repaid." Mara looked uncomfortable. "Don't do debts," she said. "Just promise me you'll leave the light on for the next ones who need it." She offered her flesh and blood hand. After a moment, Lyra extended a tendril of living light. They shook. Above them, the stars began to go out, not from destruction, but because the human fleet was folding away, taking with them every survivor of a 3-century siege. When the last ship vanished, the concordant sky was dark for the first time in recorded history. Then, one by one, new stars ignited, human colony beacons, marking safe harbor in a new galaxy. The siege had no end, until humanity opened the fold and stepped in.